My name is Victor Sagalovsky. My presentation was on deuterium depletion. It was a presentation on deuterium depletion and the benefits of deuterium depletion, an explanation of what deuterium is, how it affects us biologically, and ways we can remedy the accumulation of deuterium in our bodies, and what deuterium depletion is, essentially. It's a new discovery in biology, what I believe is the most incredible and most important discovery in biology of our time, because it has to do with how we age and slowing down our aging process and increasing the amount of energy that's available to us in our mitochondria and our cells throughout our entire health span, our entire lifespan. I don't think we can end aging. That would be presumptuous. I certainly would like to believe that, but I think we can slow the process of aging down by increasing the lifespan of our mitochondria and increasing the amount of energy that we have and increasing how well we make energy and essentially slow down the decay, the entropy that we all experiencing through life that ends in the ending of life. So we want to slow down that entropic process. And this is a top-level intervention, or as I like to call it, a upstream solution to some of these problems that we're looking into. Age being the one disease we all have in common, is that we age. Our cells are a copy of a copy of a copy. And as we age, these copies mutate, essentially. This is what physical aging looks like. We don't look the same now that we did 20, 30 years ago. This is because our cells are a copy of a copy of a copy. And if you ever tried to do that on a Xerox machine, you'll see that you lose resolution and you lose detail. And so in our bodies, that translates as that detail is the energy. The detail is the amount of mitochondria in our cells and the amount of energy they produce. So we want to slow down this aging process. And top-level intervention is deuterium depletion. There's different definitions of what aging is. So there's different ways of looking at aging in terms of tests you would take to determine the rate of aging or what aging really is. And so there's a lot of things that in this space of geroprotection. It's very new. So I think these things will be answered in time. Life extension, geroprotection, these are essentially new pastimes of humans. And before I think we took it for granted, with the exception of some researchers that we read about in old texts of immortal people and people that have lived over 100 plus, but I think this is really the first century where we've really taken a keen scientific interest in life extension in a way that it can be quantified and repeated, and because now we know so much more than we did before about mitochondria, about how energy is produced, about the mechanisms of aging. And my particular interest is getting to the root cause, because you can put band-aids on things and those are okay, but if we get to the root cause of something, then we can really do the proper intervention and slow down our aging. I think, there's people that say, oh, I'm going to live to 150, 160, 100, the fact right now is that the chances of a centenarian, somebody that's reached 100 years of age, making it to 110, is 1 in 700. 1 in 700 centenarians reach the age of 110. So there's this rapid decline toward the end of our lives where these things are amplified. We exponentially age toward the end. So certain factors we need to look at, and the one I've really honed in on was deuterium depletion. There's other parts of my theory of aging that are not are exclusive of deuterium, but that's the really big one. That's a really big one. I've never been to Yakutia and Irkutsk. I've only traveled there through the literature of what was accomplished there 60 plus years ago. So I'm just a consummate reader, researcher, journeyer. I ask a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive and a precocious mind for understanding things. And if something piques my interest, I try to follow it to its natural conclusion. So in 2004, I read an article which talked about deuterium depletion and talked about drinking deuterium depleted water and the studies that were done on these populations of people living in relatively harsh environments that had a prolonged lifespan, that had a lifespan outside of the norm of what everybody else was experiencing, and how they ultimately worked out that the reason they were living healthier and longer was because the amount of deuterium in their drinking water was 16% lower than the average. That really piqued my interest in 2004, and then I aligned with people around the world that were equally enthused about this discovery. And usually it's a very small group that is drawn to something. Yeah. So it still is a small group of people around the world that are interested in deuterium depletion, or at least the science, the mechanisms, and the technology behind it. And I think it's phenomenal because what it's done for me and other people, partners, customers. You can get Lightwater at drinklightwater.com. Lightwater is spelled Lightwater. So you can go to drinklightwater.com. You can go to deuteriumtest.com, where we offer testing of your saliva or water for its deuterium content. You can go to deuteriumdepletion.org if you want to look at a lot of the studies and literature. I put as much of what I could find out there on this website. And you can go to Deuterium Depletion Summit. It's a summit that we held and that we're going to have again, where we assemble the top thinkers and top scientists in this area of deuterium depletion, or deuteronomics as it's called, which is the branch of biochemistry that endeavors to explain how deuterium is managed by the body. So these websites should give you more than ample information to understand what this is. And certainly if you type in deuterium depletion into Google, you'll find a lot there. So yeah, these things take a long time to come to market. As well, you can imagine I got interested in this in 2004. It's 2022 now. So these things take a long time to get into the general consciousness, and even now very few people know what that word means. You asked me earlier why I wanted to come to this conference. Well, I wanted to be among my peers of people that are involved in future technology. And it was quite refreshing to ask the audience, raise your hand if you've ever heard the word deuterium, and 95% of the people raised their hands, where normally you lecture on this stuff and you ask that same question and you've got one or two people in an audience of 100 raise their hands. So this is my crowd. These are engineers, inventors, scientists, thinkers that are receptive to things that they're better educated in these. Why? Maybe because they've taken a keen interest early on, but I like being in this intellectual crowd because I like to be in a group where people are smarter than I am. You know, it's never fun to be the smartest or most informed in the room. I'd rather be the least in the room, because that way I can learn something. And sure enough, here the caliber of intellect that you find at this conference is just second to none. Just incomparable, the type of people that are here and the information that they're willing to share. It's I'm quite honored to be here, because my connotation of intellectual has to do more with people that are theoretical, and this is a very much applied group. Yeah. But to me, what I mean to say is just somebody that's more interested in asking questions that can solve life's problems, and is a more of person that's focused more, lean towards intellectualism, is one that is preoccupied with understanding their own process of thinking, of their ontology, of what is thought, what is somebody that questions things from a analytical perspective, questions things from a logical perspective, that questions things from it's more interested in solving problems than just existing here, and just going along with everything that's here, and somebody that has a deeper intellect for things, it's more interested in reading Tesla papers and reading a crime novel, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's in short supply because critical thinking is in short supply.
Okay, Socratic method.
Socratic method, critical thinking, all this is in short supply.
Okay.
Yeah, and
wonderful.
And, yeah.
That you recognize that.
Yeah. So we have common sense, which is not so common, and then beyond common sense, which most people are lacking in, you go beyond that to a progressive sense. So I think an intellectual is somebody that's interested in these concerns of progress, right? Progress in understanding everything from philosophical problems to physical problems, or technological issues like that we're faced with today, and how to not be stuck in a frozen logos of things, where there's not everybody these days is I wouldn't say everybody, but there's this notion that things are settled, that we're so far evolved technologically and in our understanding of things and philosophically, and even people think that we're evolved intellectually or emotionally, so things become settled, right? They call it settled science, settled politics, but nothing's settled. Right. Truly, nothing is settled. It's just we've agreed to stay at this level. So I very much love being in a group of futurists like this that see what potential we can rise to, versus being just complacent or having the status quo be enough for you. Because we have some deep problems that are easily solved. They're easily solved because we have the ability to solve all the problems that we're faced with. And we're just impeded by those that have solved those problems earlier and have gotten to a frozen state of things and have said this is settled. So this is an incredible crowd because nothing here is settled. Everybody here is a true scientist or inventor, I'd say. I don't know. Certainly not everybody. Some here are just here observing. But I mean, here's what's interesting to me. You look at a video of a free energy motor, or an over unity motor, or let's just even say a real efficient motor, or some device that has the potential to change how we look at energy and electricity, and that will have 100 YouTube views. And then you look at some schlocky video of some terribly produced, terribly implemented, just grating on the ears music, and it's got 1 billion views. So our priorities are just completely whacked, So I think we're all kind of anachronistic here, longing for either a better future or trying to resolve how to take the things from the past that should have been already implemented, because everybody here is keen on building things like Tesla generators, et cetera, and these things were invented over 100 years ago, this technology, and yet it never caught on because we live in a place where there has to be a profit made. So it's we're on this Edison timeline when we could be on a Tesla timeline. So we're very much romantic in the sense that we want to see only the best of something. Like we're Like in the right world, you would advance based on your merit, not on your connections or whatever influence or nepotistic relationships you may have. So it's an interesting thing to be, to feel like to be ahead on something, to be ahead on things, but feel like you're behind because there's so much still to do. And so because you can't do everything, you have to focus on something that is slightly or maybe more so importance than something else. So I'm focusing on deuterium depletion and making the world recognize that what we have here is a new standard of water purity. So it will not come to everybody all at once, but eventually everybody will understand that we have this natural contaminant in our water, in our atmosphere, in our food, everywhere around us. And in order for us to exist at a more optimal state, we just have to lower it by 15 to 20%. And so this can be done through introducing this new standard of water purity, because where it's going to get lowered is in the water that we consume. So unfortunately, this new standard is going to take a long time to become ubiquitous and for everyone to participate in this. But this is an incredible, if not the most incredible, discovery in biology of our time. How our cells utilize, or how our cells filter, how they filter deuterium from our bodies. And so I'm just very excited about sharing this discovery, and not only sharing the discovery, but making available to anybody that wants deuterium depleted water, so they can lower the deuterium levels in their own body and feel and experience the benefits of that.